Welcome to the Film Mechanic Screenwriting Podcast with Deri Tyton. Hey everyone, I hope all is well. And today on the Film Mechanic Screenwriting Podcast, we are discussing log lines. Yay! I won't make it long or intense, but I just wanted to say they are not hard to write. Now, I know somebody just booed me. I remember when I first started as a screenwriter, I used to write log lines after I wrote the screenplay. That made me think writing log lines was hard. And guess what? Sometimes my log line would sound better than the movie I wrote. Raise your hand if that ever happened to you before. Right? Like your log line sound better than your movie, right? Truth is, that's why Logline is the fourth chapter in the Film Mechanic Screenwriting Workbook, because it's important to know your story before you write the screenplay. First, what is a logline? A logline is a 30-word brief summary of your screenplay. It's like describing a 90 to 120-page screenplay with the least amount of words you can have, but still give it a full, dang, I want to see that moment. Yet, a logline is genre specific. Although genres vary, what is important is characters, goals, antagonists, and stakes. By changing the genre, the story doesn't necessarily change. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's take a movie like You Got Served. Here's the original logline from IMDb. In order to achieve their dreams of opening a recording studio, two friends must first win their city's dance contest, a fierce competition that pits them against a group of tough street dancers. Now here's the same movie, You Got Served, with a genre-specific twist to it. Now the twist is I rewrote it as a crime noir. And it states, two friends on the brink of ruined lives must kill a group of tough street dancers in a shady world of dance competition that could hold the keys to their future, right? Now, although I did miss the recording studio component, and I took that out for a reason, because I wanted to more or less focus on the ruined lives and how they were going to get their lives together. Although they both are the same story, they just read different. They gave it a different vibe, right? Why is that? Okay, before I begin, let's understand that a logline and a movie tagline are two different things. A tagline is a catchy slogan on a movie poster. Again, a logline is a summary of your story in the most succinct and vivid way possible. So let's talk the composition of a logline. There are four main components that make up the composition of a logline: the protagonist, the protagonist's goal, the antagonist or antagonistic force, and the stakes. The protagonist is the main character or main characters. The protagonist's goal is more than likely the physical thing that the protagonist or main character wants to obtain. Just like we discussed in episode 3 about character inner and outer journeys, this is where you ask, what do they want? The antagonist or antagonistic force is what stops the main character from getting what they want. The antagonistic force can be, for example, a hurricane, a tidal wave, windstorm, sandstorm, a hunting spirit. The stakes are what happens if the main character doesn't meet the goal. So let's look at a couple examples of that, right? In the movie Indecent Proposal, what will happen between the young married couple if the wife sleeps with the billionaire for the $1 million? Another example is what will happen if James Bond doesn't stop every villain he's faced with? The villain will have the world domination, of course, right? Or what if Tyrese's character in Waist Deep, what if he doesn't save his son? Like, the stakes are high in each one of those movies. It's what makes the story intriguing. Does your logline have stakes? And just to be clear, your film doesn't have to have an all or nothing type of stake in it, where it's like your life is dependent on something, but it should feel like it's an all or nothing type of thing. Here's a cool example. Let's look at the movie Soul Plane, the funny comedy starring Kevin Hart with so many other comedic greats and rappers and actors. It's like, I mean, it's some of everybody in that joint. According to Voodoo, the logline reads, after a humiliating experience on an airplane, Nashawn Wade sues the airline and is awarded a huge settlement. Determined to make good with the money, Nashawn creates a full-service airline of his dreams, complete with a sexy stewardess, funky music, and a hot on-board dance club and a bathroom attendant. This particular film has low stakes, right? Doesn't have huge stakes in it, right? Why? Because he didn't have to fly on the same airline. He could have just picked a new one. Instead, he started to own his own. So what's at stake? Well, if you saw the movie, you would know the most important thing that's at stake is not so much the airline company, but he could lose the girl he loves that happens to be on his plane. It's a comedy. Come on, y'all. Of course, the movie, has some deathness to it, but the logline gives us everything we need. Nashawn is the protagonist. He sues the airline and makes good with the money by starting his own full-service airline. That's his goal. What stands in his way is actually providing a full-service airline. But that comes at a cost. With the wacky staff that works for him on that airline, ooh, man, it's crazy. What's at stake is if he doesn't provide the best experience, it'll be a waste of time and money. That's generally what we'll see. But what if we change the genre of Soul Plane to a sci-fi? It will read something like this. Surviving a horrific moment. An intraplanetary passenger finds himself as the owner of a spacecraft that's willing to save humans from the aerial attacks that he suffered. Mind-blowing, right? I did that, right? It just reads different. I would like to think it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. That's why it's important to write your logline as genre-specific as possible, because surviving a horrific moment, an interplanetary passenger, that's not a comedy, finds himself as the owner of a spacecraft. There's nothing comedic about what I'm talking about at that present moment. It sounds like a sci-fi. So wording is important. Being genre specific is important. I also would like to add, not all log lines fit into the specific character goal, antagonist, and stakes format. They don't have to be in that specific order. It is nice to have all of these things stand out in your log line, though. Here are a few basic rules that I think you should include, but you are not limited to these. Your log line should be around a 25 to 30 word sentence, one sentence. Yet there are log lines that are broken up into two sentences. It should be written in third person. And if it can be, please write it in a present voice. Try to write it with an active voice. Include positive and negative traits of your characters, protagonist and antagonist, using adjectives. In fact, you may even want to use adjectives to describe your character's world, if that's okay, if you can do that as well. But most importantly, write a log line to sell, sell, sell. You do not write a log line to explain your story, but to hook your investor, to hook that producer, because this is where you introduce your character and your character's world and what's at stake for them. So don't save the most vital information for the script. Tell it to me now. Like, who would save Freddy Krueger for the script, but not in the log line? Who would save Lex Luthor, Superman's arch nemesis, for the script, but not put that in the log line? Like, who would have this? Like, who would save the premise of a white family switching bodies, like in the movie Get Out, for the script? I can't even say it enough. You write a log line to sell your screenplay. Log lines are used as pitching tools. Before anyone reads your screenplay, Your log line should sell your story. Use it to draw interest to your screenplay from investors. What I'm about to say may hurt a few people's feelings, but my intentions are really good. No reputable producer wants to read a 95-page script from an unknown talent with no known talent, albeit actors, directors, producers, or even a DP, or even somebody who is famous for music or art attached to it. But what does work is when your logline is so dope and is placed on a website, if not your own website, but something like Stage 32 or the Blacklist, where reputable people or producers frequent and fish around for new ideas. One of these people can come across your logline and become so intrigued that they want to reach out to you and read the first 5 pages of your screenplay. We'll talk about the first 5 pages later. I'm saying choose the best words to describe your script. And that's why it's best that you write your logline before you write your screenplay. I'm not saying you have to. What I'm saying is it's just best to do it that way. You do know your logline is rewritable, just like your screenplay. Stories, ideas, and concepts change over time when you work with them. I'm saying your logline doesn't have to be etched in stone, but the idea of having one right off the bat is definitely nice. Again, loglines are not difficult to write. You just have to keep working at them. And in order to get a good one, you might have to rewrite the same one about 5 to about 20 times in different ways, of course, to see and feel the story come out in a few words. So let's look at a couple that I kind of created. Aboard an ill-fated voyage to sea, a young couple from different social classes fall in love. So we know that's the Titanic, right? So I kind of give like the stakes in the very beginning of that. Aboard an ill-fated voyage to sea. Like they didn't see that was happening, but I wanted the producer that was reading this to actually know what was going to happen. Or let's look at when a semi-hood dude and his homie smoke up all the dope dealers' weed instead of selling it, they'll have to find a way to get the money or be killed. So in that, I just kind of wanted to say I introduced my protagonist, I introduced the antagonist, and then I introduced the goal, and I introduce the stakes. It's out of order. It like your logline doesn't have to fit in the exact order of the composition of a logline, but those 4 things are very necessary: a protagonist, a goal, an antagonist, and the stakes. We're gonna look at one more before we get out of here. A mature, streetwise high school DJ witnesses the murder of his best friend and spend his days avoiding the psychopathic homeboy who did the murder. That's the movie Juice. So I start off with an adjective, right? A couple of them. Let's say a couple of them. A mature, streetwise high school DJ who witnesses the murder of his best friend, right? And spends his days avoiding, that's the goal, to avoid the psychopathic homeboy who did the murder. And I put the psychopathic homeboy because at that moment you already know, like, if you kill my best friend, you will kill me too. So all of these 3 films are classics. I would like to say that if your logline may seem bland or boring, there's a way to spice it up. But do not underestimate your character, the goals, the antagonist, and the stakes, because it may be what a director or producer is looking for. I hope this in some small way has helped you, and thanks for listening to the Film Mechanic Screenwritings Podcast. We appreciate your support. Be sure to leave a review and a comment and share with your closest screenwriting friends. Stop by www.derityton.com for the Film Mechanic Screenwriting Workbook, and we'll see you next episode. Have an awesome day. Peace.